Welcome to another episode of XenoChat. I am one of the hosts, Tyler, along with the other host, Justin.
What's up, XenoFam, and welcome back to another episode.
Alright, and we have two returning guests with us today. First up, we have Robin.
Hey!
And we have Kat.
Hello!
Alright, today is a very special episode that I've been wanting us to do for quite a while now, and probably heard us talk about it off and on, and that is queer theory within the Xeno franchise. Now, before we get into...
Sort of like a baby's overview.
Yeah, baby's overview. Yeah, just to clarify, we are not professionals. The idea was actually given, or I think it was Christy, who was on the Shion episode, actually came up with the idea originally. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here with us today, but it's something I've really wanted us to pursue, and especially since this is June, Pride Month, the time of this recording, it's something that I think it was about time that we tackled.
This will probably go up during Wrath Month.
This is true.
Yes.
I'll try my best to get it done by then. But before we get into that, let's get into our usual business with Mala Soft and Xeno News. I'm guessing a bunch of you have probably picked up Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition because it is available now. Everybody here pick it up, or?
Hell yeah.
Nope.
Yeah!
Oh.
Yeah, you didn't pick it up. You haven't been streaming it, I know.
No, I got it, and it's really good. I was kind of worried about playing it, not gonna lie, because, like, it's an old game, right? And I played this game, what is it, like 8 years ago was when I first played it. So I was wondering if, like, it would hold up well, especially after playing Xenoblade Cross and Xenoblade 2 and Torna. But I'm happy to say it plays better than it ever could have. Like, I'm shocked at how well this game has held up. And the Definitive Edition really puts a nice coat of paint on it and really makes it that much better of a game.
Yeah, the title is no lie. It is definitely the definitive edition to play of Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, and Future Connected is also really cool as well. Definitely check that out when you're done playing the main game, because I really enjoyed it. I know some people
I liked it.
Have opinions about it, but personally, I liked it.
I think if you come at it hoping that it's gonna, like, have a bunch of revelations, then yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. But if you're just coming at it thinking, oh boy, more Xeno with maybe, like, a little teaser of what they might do in the future, then it's great. It's more Xeno. What the fuck's the problem?
Exactly.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten to that, but once I get done with the main game,
yeah, you're one of those people.
Yeah,
I wanted to play it again
so much that I just don't.
I just ran headfirst and tried to remember how to play Melia, and eventually I did. I believe there's other news.
But yeah, there's some more news other than just Definitive Edition being out. So Nintendo has been pushing Xenoblade like crazy. We've mentioned before that they have merch now. Well, guess what? They're gonna have a Xenoblade themed event in Tetris 99 next month. They tweeted that, like, Tetris 99's 14th Maximus Cup is gonna be featuring Xenoblade Chronicles. So if you earn 100 event points from July 3rd through July 6th, you can unlock a Xenoblade Chronicles theme, and it has all sorts of music from the game in there too. So that looks really cool, and I'm surprised that they're even including it in Tetris 99. It's kind of crazy to think that, like, Xenoblade has become what it is.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, then there's also a frickin' Melia statue coming. Good Smile's hooking us up with one of those. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big statue person, but I'm gonna hop on that train.
I mean...
Same.
Yeah, especially how the KOS-MOS statue is looking from Good Smile. I am so excited to see how this one will look.
And we're still waiting on our KOS-MOS, by the way.
Yeah, hopefully she'll be coming out in July. Yeah, damn you, COVID.
According to Ami, if you ship DHL, like, their stuff's still arriving. I don't know. I haven't looked into it too much, so can't say. But I do know DHL is still shipping from Japan to the US.
Oh, good. So hopefully we'll be getting KOS-MOS in July. But then, yeah,
I assume they cost more, so a lot of people might not really want to pay for that difference.
Oh, fair.
That is all I know.
Oh. It'll be interesting to find out how the Melia will look. I'm assuming she'll probably be around the same price as KOS-MOS and Pyra and Mithra were, but we shall see.
Goodbye, money.
Who needs money anyway?
They can have my money.
Yeah.
Thus is the life of a
And
Xenoph.
I'm still, crossing fingers for that Shulk Nendoroid.
That would be cute.
It would be so cute. Well.
Alright. I'm guessing that, is there anybody want to mention anything, or is that about it?
I think that's it for news.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's the interesting stuff for now. So I guess we can move on to the main topic.
Alright, queer theory. Well, before we get
Baby's
into
introduction to...
Yes, Baby's introduction to queer theory. So before we go into this, again, we are not professionals. And we do not, speak for, the LGBTQ plus community. But
some of us here are individuals that are part of this community and have limited lived experiences.
Mm-hmm.
With this, we hope to just put the barest scratch of education into the topic. This is a complex topic that not everybody has all the same opinions on, and I think it's just the nature of queer theory, the experience, and the experience of people in the LGBT community is going to be different from person to person. So
LGBTQ community.
If anything, it would be amazing if, let's say you were to listen to this topic and you were to do your own research on this as well. That would be really cool, because I think that this is a big topic that a lot of us can benefit from reading up on or doing any kind of little research, even if it's just watching one little video here or there, just so that you're aware of it and that you really use that as a new way to look at your media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, think of this as a tasting menu of queer theory topics, and this is just our personal wine reviews of how we were affected. My metaphor got way lost halfway through me saying it, and I'm just gonna live with that. We're not restarting this.
It's out there.
This is there. Yeah, okay.
You just gotta live with that.
I just gotta live with that.
All right. Does anybody want to start by defining queer theory for us?
Okay, so queer theory is I guess I'll put my fucking philosophy degree to some use here, even though queer theory was no part of it. So it's this idea of trying to not see the world in terms of binaries, because I, especially in this Western society, I obviously can't speak to any society I didn't grow up in. There's a very tendency to see things in black and white and very rigid columns, and of course life doesn't always adhere to that. So it's about seeing just beyond the rigid columns that society places and kind of eking out your own space and going, okay, I don't have to see myself as man or woman, I don't have to see myself as gay or straight, there are other topics in here. And it's also about the other groups to which you belong. It's about not putting yourself in one particular box and just staying there. It's okay, yes, I'm bi, but I'm also Jewish. Maybe I shouldn't just see things from my bi box. I should sometimes see things in my Jewish box. I should sometimes just see things in my I'm a human person who has ideals box.
Exactly. It's also about having an open mind to people or things that disrupt the status quo. Our society tends to place a lot of expectations on a lot of us, and we grow up believing those expectations and following those expectations, and people who don't often get ostracized for it. So this is really about saying that, hey, maybe those people that are quote unquote different, they're not so bad. They're just like everybody else. We shouldn't have to limit limit our scopes to these specific things just because that is what society insists on drilling into us.
And of course, if you are like, hey, I've had, this deep self-reflection, and you know what, I was put in the boy box, and I'm happy in the boy box, that's cool. It's just about, like, not forcing yourself to do something. It's about looking at everything, looking at the options, and then figuring out what is good for you, and figuring out, like, there isn't one way to see things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is to be going against the status quo. Mm-hmm. And currently, the status quo is the thought that the men need to be in charge, the females need to be second to them. Everybody is either male or female. Everybody needs to stay in their place. And it's like currently there's a lot of people have come to rely on the status quo because it doesn't require them to think a lot for themselves. Right. Thinking for yourself is dangerous. And Disney movies have pinged on it a little bit in an attempt to, sort of be educational, but it's not really enough. Education, funding for education and what kids are learning these days is very different from what I learned in the 1990s. So people are challenging the status quo less in the current education strata, but more on the internet. So it's a very big, broad topic. It's a very big sort of monolithic thing that people who don't fit it now fight it. Or some people who are within the LGBT plus community, some people can't fight. Some people are trapped in situations where they cannot be their safety would not be guaranteed if they were completely out about who and what they made them up. And I think one of the big important things that queer theory and philosophy and stuff is making the world safer for people who are outside of the status quo.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've mentioned, queer theory does cover more than just gender and sexual orientation, but for the purposes of this podcast, this specific episode, we're just going to be focusing on those and maybe touching a little bit on some others, but...
Yeah, we will mention some of the other aspects of it briefly, but most of the topics we're going to bring up here are related to gender or sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's...
So, doing a half-assed transition into our next bullet point. What is queer coding? That wasn't even a transition. That was just stating the next bullet point.
That was you reading what was on our paper.
That was me just reading it. I thought of one in my head, and then I said, no, just say words. Just barrel through it like I did in college.
You valid. But queer coding in media is characters that are set up to be read as outside the status quo. And I did a little bit of Wikipediaing before here, but I forgot to write it down here. Early in film, when a Western person wanted to code somebody as queer, most of it was in the use of most of this coding was applied to villains and people and characters that were sidekicks or people intended to be not taken seriously. But I think with the Xenometa series, at least with starting with Xenogears, I noticed very early on that characters who were queer-coded were not bad guys. So I think modern media has, obviously much more. It's evolved much, much more since the advent of mass communication. So we went through a period where the heroes were only status quo people, but now we're experiencing a lot of more inclusion. And I think despite Xenogears coming out in the 90s. Xenogears misses a lot of the big bullet points of a lot of queer theory stuff, but it improves in certain areas.
Yeah, and that can be said about, the rest of the Xeno meta series. There's a lot of characters that really kind of go against the status quo in quite a few ways. And we're going to be talking about some of that today as well, and some of the themes that come with that as well. And obviously, Kat was talking about how how these kind of characters were portrayed before. One of the things that queer theory tends to examine is how much heteronormativity is in our how prevalent that is in our media, whether it be just like a TV show or like a commercial or a book even. Oftentimes we're brought up to think that, well, the hero is just going to be a boy, he meets a girl, they fall in love, the end. But in Xeno, at least, there are more characters that kind of break away from that in some ways. And that's what makes it kind of interesting, because it's different. It's refreshing. It shows another perspective to the media that we all love and like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, granted, there are some instances of heteronormativity in the Xeno games, but it's also with conjunction with breaking the status quo as well. So it's kind of more diverse.
Yeah, it's like the series is not 100% all the way through. It explores different stuff at different times. So it's like we get I don't want to say it's like Rain, but sometimes it's gay and sometimes it's not. So. Yes. But I also think that a lot, like through most of the Xeno titles, we are fighting against a villain that is enforcing a negative status quo, whether it's Solaris or Ormus or Malphus. So.
And there are a lot of themes of kind of figuring out who you are in the universe and who you want to be and accepting that, and
yeah.
There's to a lesser extent, and of course your true friends will accept you too, but it's mostly about a journey of self-discovery and potentially rejecting what society has put on you.
And also the themes of fear and ostracization, like the fear that everybody is just going to not accept you when they find out who you really are. That's a very prevalent theme throughout many of these Xeno games.
Yeah. And these are things where we'll kind of go more into them as we go through the series, but this is just our overview.
All right. So with that, I guess how do we want to do this? Do we want to go game by game and talk about specific characters and events?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I guess we can start with Xenogears. Any characters that
let's go chronologically.
Okay. So I know it's been suggested that Sigurd is can be read as bi.
I mean, I don't think I know a single person who doesn't read him as at least bi.
Touche.
Let's see. My counter to that is, has he ever expressed interest in women?
That's also a good point. And I'm not sure if we have a word of God on this, but Sigurd is definitely one of the people who is queer-coded and on the good guy side. And he stood out to me as a 16-year-old kid with absolutely, no scholarly anything. Just oh, I've seen characters like this in other media, but they're not good guys. That's cool.
Yeah, and when you first see Sigurd, he kind of has, a bit of a villainous look if you consider, stereotypical anime of that era.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got an eye patch. He's not lily white. Clearly evil.
But he turns out to be one of the best and Kudere-esque characters in the series. I feel bad putting the emphasis on, oh hey, there's a queer-coded good guy, but there's also a very queer-coded bad guy. And when Ramses bursts onto the scene and his upsetness over Sigurd's defection from Solaris, it's like watching a breakup movie. And I could not think that down, despite all the other, like, straight interactions Ramses has. Ramses has, like, a lot of the you should not exist, something is wrong with you, you're not good enough, that is used by Krellian to control him. And I think a lot of people who are growing up right now who aren't supported are going through the same or similar things to that. And because I was going through something similar myself, I saw that and was like, whoa, a video game did this. Holy shit.
Actually, on the topic of Ramses and, striking down heteronormativity, when you first see Ramses with Miang, like, it's very much like, oh, and that's just his arm candy woman, whatever. And then as you go through the story, you're like, oh, Ramses is the arm candy.
Yeah, pretty much. And it kind of, like, the narrative is very, like, this guy is in a cage. And it's very anti-Ramses Miang. The narrative is very negative for him as an antagonist, and it's an interesting compliment to Faye and Ellie. This is the heteronormative relationship that does not work out, but also there's a lot of problems with Faye and Ellie as well.
Yeah.
But
this is a why that's bad episode.
Yes. But yeah, I think when people look for different people look for different things in media. And they value different things, and it's more and more important as we go forward that media has more stuff that's LGBT positive. But when you look at stuff in the 90s, it's just like this bulwark of boy and girl hold hands, do things, and Xenogears kind of like. When you pick Xenogears by itself out of the patch, and you just look at Xenogears and what it does well and what it doesn't do well, it's kind of there's a lot of stuff that it doesn't do well. But when you compare it in its era, it's a lot more standout.
Yeah, you could say that more of an attempt was made to have diverse characters.
Yeah.
In comparison to its peers.
And actually a thing with Sigurd that I know we have a note on later, but Sigurd is another example of a dark-skinned character who's, soft and not angry. He is not an angry black man. Which, not quite on the queer theory line, but...
Race is like...
Race is part of it.
Part of it.
It is definitely part of the discussion. Part of that, for sure.
Yeah.
The whole thing is...
And again, I know we have, like, another
inclusive.
note about that later,
yes.
So... It's just like, now this other note won't stand out so much. But another easy transition to make from Ramses is, of course, Dominia.
Yes.
Who, when I was a wee tot playing the game, based on how I knew anime girls looked, I thought Dominia was clearly an anime boy, because her eyes weren't as big, so that means anime boy. That's just what it means, as we all know. And I, again, as a wee tot, was just like, oh, and Dominia and Kelvina are a pair. Cool. Eventually I figured out Dominia was a girl, and I was like, okay, and Dominia and Kelvina are a pair. Cool.
Yes.
However, of course, it's impossible to ignore that canonically she's supposed to be interested in Ramses, even if when I was a wee tot I didn't get that.
Yeah, I think Dominia was one of the first female characters I had, like, gay feelings about, so she's very near and dear to my heart. She also, she doesn't start out knowing all the things. She's very, like, within under Solarian control, and I was surprised when they did more with her than just have her be Ramses's crony. Like, she is one of the ones who says, hey, why are you even fighting? Now that we know your weird backstory, that's a reason not to fight. And I get the very sunk-in trope of person is saved by other person and falls in love with that person, and that's that kind of thing is kind of coming under fire under modern fandom. So I'm not gonna touch on it too much, but Dominia is very female, but also masculine coded. It's also very easy to read her as a lesbian. I never thought I was 100% lesbian, but if I were, Dominia would have been the hard start of it.
If Dominia was real, we would all be lesbians.
Yes. Also, there's that thing where I'm not 100% female either.
And yet, everyone lesbian for Dominia.
Yes.
But yes, Dominia also has, she's trying to very strictly adhere to a society that doesn't like her, because she is a demi-human, and she's in Solaris, where they're like, that's cool, you're livestock, we don't like you, but she's still pro them, and trying to be like, no, that's cool, it's fine. And I'm sure that's a feeling that people who are closeted and in very toxic situations can be like, I get that. Yeah, I get kind of hiding under, because it's like, what are my options here? Death? Death is a shitty option.
Yes, death is a very shitty option. And sometimes silence is the only current solution. And it's the whole point of elevating more queer media is that more people feel safe enough to come out.
Mm-hmm. And then as another jumping off point with demi-humans, we of course also have Rico, who his father rejected him. His father's like, nope, you're a gross little green boy, you can leave now. And he, therefore grew up in the streets. And his TV tropes page lists him as ambiguously gay, which I find cool by me. I don't know that I read that narrative, or I don't know that I would. I wouldn't say that's canon. That's totally cool. It's obviously fine as fanon. I don't think that was the intent in canon, but it works perfectly. It's fine. He does hang out with a bunch of half-dressed dudes and one fully clothed woman. Go for it. And he does have that narrative of being rejected and thrown out and kind of making his own path. There is that Japanese stereotype trope that I'm not super familiar with, where you have a very masculine guy who is meant to more appeal to other men. And it's based on the idea that more feminine guys will appeal to women. So if you're not doing that, it's kind of how a lot of J-pop idols work out, where they have that more feminine, sensitive appearance because that's mostly what women like. And then so if you're being hyper masculine, then haha, that's kind of gay because you're clearly not trying to get girls into you. So Rico does have that going for him as well. And he's also one of the good guys, so yay.
Man, I wish Rico got more in the story.
Oh god, he so deserved it.
Oh god, yeah.
Rico Appreciation Podcast.
Yo,
he's essentially Bart, but for Kislev.
Yeah. And hey, speaking of Bart, Bart's on this list too! So this is more, a lot of the basis for Bart being on the list is hearsay, where I had read at some point that originally Bart was meant to be a female character and was going to be another potential Faye love interest, so there would have been some conflict with, will Faye go with Bart, who's more like him, but not Ellie, or Ellie, who's more sensitive, and everyone falls asleep. Fortunately, they didn't do that, but that still does leave Bart with a little bit of gay coding and potentially trans coding, because I personally, if I hear a character was designed as gender A and then they switched to gender B, I'm like, cool, they're trans. Thanks. Anyone else have Gears points? Or shall we move on to Saga points?
I think we can get going to Saga points. I think that's one of the bigger ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Saga has, like, the most obvious one.
The most obvious one. Shion and KOS-MOS.
Yeah, just look at any promo material. Done. Next.
Yeah.
I mean...
Next point!
Next point.
No.
I mean, sometimes you could... I don't know if people could debate whether it's, like, fetishized, but I don't...
You know, when I was college aged, I had an axe to grind with like lesbian content that was created for consumption by men, and Xenosaga didn't hit any of those points for me. Maybe because I was predisposed to like the Xeno series, but like if you look at the posters, okay, maybe. If you were to go into some guy's dorm and just, like, he had a Xenosaga poster and you just look at the guy, sure, whatever. You can judge however you want, but if you play the game and you see the narrative, it's very not like that. They definitely used that Yuri flavor to market it to that audience a little bit, but I think the soul of the story is a lot less heteronormative than the others.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, Shion sacrificing for KOS-MOS. KOS-MOS definitely sacrifices for Shion. And it's hard to not read it as a sort of love story. Like, I feel that you're putting more effort to not view them romantically. But, of course, if that's what you're gonna do, that's what you're gonna do. I cannot stop you.
And, like, different people take different meanings for different things and like different things. So, if you don't like a pairing because you don't like a pairing, that doesn't make you any worse or better than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. We have a note here. KOS-MOS as trans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think it was one of...
Kat, I think that was one of your notes.
Oh yeah. So I am not the only person who knows trans people. But I've been in the Xeno fandom for a while. People have come and gone, and there have been quite a few trans women who look very fondly to KOS-MOS. And I've pronounced her wrong. I'm sorry, Jin.
No, you're fine.
Don't worry about it.
Just like me and Sighton. Satan.
I'm pretty sure we've said Xeno like 10 different ways at this point.
Yeah.
XenoChat.
Yeah.
But, okay. Anyway, KOS-MOS as trans icon. She is high femme, but there's something unfeminine about her that doesn't like break the whole doesn't break the line. And I think if I have a lot of trans mask tendencies, so when I look at characters like Dunban, I'm like, oh hey, I can very easily make the step and be like Dunban. And I think trans women who are looking at KOS-MOS look at her and can make similar steps cognitively. I can't speak for anybody else, and we don't have any of those people that I've mentioned on hand, but this is something that I've seen in the fandom, and I think I thought it was worth mentioning.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think KOS-MOS is like one of the strongest attackers, in the gameplay. She is tall, so like those are things where you might, if you had to put things into categories of masculine, feminine, you'd shove those into the masculine ones.
Well, oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, if you look at KOS-MOS's progression throughout the story, she at first has the two different modes or ways she presents herself. The way that Vector or Shion wants her to, or well, not Shion, but Vector wants her to be is a combat android and nothing more. And then there are moments where Mary comes out, and that's kind of something that Wilhelm wants her to be. And it's not until later in the episode 3 that she kind of comes out as her own self by just being KOS-MOS, not exactly being Mary or her original self. and going against Wilhelm's status quo.
Yeah.
I thought was
Yes.
Hell yes.
yes.
I'm gonna skip 2 points and then bring up Alan. On the other side, we have a trans-masculine icon. Where his narrative deals with a lot of toxic masculinity. And, like, he's consistently, especially by Shion being told to man up, which, if you read him as being trans-masc, is really, doesn't speak well for Shion. So...
But we're not here to cut Shion down.
Yeah, we had another episode where we spoke about Shion. That was way back.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we basically like Shion, but this is not a way to give her a charitable read. But he does deal with, he's constantly told, like, oh, you have to be tough, this is how you're a man, and that's a thing that, like, yeah, it could be part of transmasculine narrative, it could be part of, like, a lot of narratives within these sort of trans experience.
Yeah,
and ultimately he kind of comes to himself and is more confident, not by, like, okay, yeah, he does shoot a gun and that's super cool, but it's because he's speaking out and empathizing and, like, kind of being aggressive about love that is really his crowning coolest moment.
Yeah, he lets out.
Yeah, he's overcoming a lot of his inner insecurities by the third game, because, like, Shion often berates him and says all these things about him, and you can tell it's like eating at him. He's always at odds with himself, so he feels like he's not good enough for Shion. He's not manly enough for Shion. And, by the end of the third game, he realized that, you know what, this is who I am, and I can be strong in my own way. And I think that's actually something really cool about Alan.
Yeah, and he, like, it's very, from the heart of Alan. Alan doesn't make, too many different changes about himself. He doesn't make a virgin to Chad transformation. He gets fed up, and he yells his true feelings, the ones that he's had from the start. And that frees him, a little bit. So.
There's also the Xenosaga anime, where he goes drinking with Assistant Scott.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. There's his much better relationship, who doesn't berate him for being, like, not sufficiently manly. But we are, of course, Scallon stans.
Yes.
He's a good boy.
I don't know if we're talking about Scott or Alan, but the answer is yes.
Yes, to both of them.
Yes.
They're both good boys. Yeah.
Should we take...
And then...
go on. Oh, sorry.
I was going to skip over to Chaos now.
Oh, I was going to too.
We're Chaos.
Okay. Okay, great. So we agree. Let's skip over to Chaos.
Yes, let's.
So Chaos, can easily read as non-binary. Any character can read as non-binary.
That's true, yeah. I think, like, with my non-binary read on a character that I read as non-binary, I think Chaos's gentleness is very, it's very apt. I know he's just, like, a part of Jesus, but Chaos is a gentle guy, and that's outside the status quo as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean, he's not, like, status quo thing that makes him outside, that makes him not him, or whatever. But it just, like, I think I am going through this and, arguing with myself, why did you say that? That's a terrible thing to say. But, like, I think, in a non-fetishizing way, looking at a character, and seeing parts of yourself there, and how you could take this part of this into your experience, with characters that are easier to do that, has been important to me. And a lot of my favorite characters, I just have easy reads to things that I'm naturally like. And if other people don't read the same thing from that, and that's really fine. But it's also been an important part of my development as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I apologize for stumbling, and I apologize if I've said anything off key.
We've had like 7 disclaimers of we're not experts, and this is our personal opinion.
You're fine.
And experience, and yours might be different, audience.
Yeah. There's like, chaos is one of the non-binary icons that I've had like in the back of my head as I've started to become more and more out with being non-binary myself. And I've run out of words, so somebody else can take it.
All right, again, while sticking with the trans narrative, the URTVs as part of having a similar trans experience where you have Yuriev going, hey, my 700 fucking kids, this is the life you're going to live, and I don't want to hear it. Like, that's it. You get this, and we're done here. And here are your names and their numbers, except for my 4 special babies who get alchemy names. And then when Rubido and Negredo leave, they get rid of those names. Those aren't them anymore. They're Junior and Guy named Kukai. And that sort of rejection of where you came from and leaving a harmful environment obviously very much speaks to a trans experience of renaming and reclaiming your identity.
Also found
and then
family.
Of course you have Citrine, who keeps the name, stays with him. And, I mean, there are other things we could say about Citrine, like, there's a whole fun abuse narrative there. But, and as for Albedo keeping his name, I always thought that was more of a spite thing. Of, like, just remember who you are, Rubido.
Also, as a short, non-cis person, seeing a short masculine person in a video game who is badass, who is as badass as Junior, is hella heartening.
I do wish he was just short and not a child.
Well, he's 27.
I mean, he's 27, but, like, he looks very much like a child. He doesn't look like a short adult.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. Which, they have a whole explanation for, but...
Well, there's a whole explanation for short trans guys as well.
Yes.
It's way different from Xenosaga science, but yes.
Yeah. It's definitely not... Your genes just don't work that well. And let's also remind everyone that Albedo should have a long flowing beard that he can never get rid of.
Albedo.
What?
Okay. Because his cells grow too fast, so he should have a beard that he just can't get rid of.
Oh,
he should have permanent 5 o'clock shadow. He should shave 12 times a day.
Now I've got the image of Albedo shaving in my head.
Well, some of us roomed with Nick, and we got to see that.
And laughing, just grinning at himself.
I mean, if he destroys his head fully
if
bearded,
you had roomed with Nick for Katsu, you would have gotten to see Albedo shaving.
He just blows his head up, that's how he shaves.
Yeah, I was going to say, would he still have the beard, or would it be gone?
Well, if he keeps regenerating his cells, it keeps growing. It's back.
Okay. Alright. Let's leave the beard for another discussion.
Our 30 minutes of Albedo's beard.
Yep, that's going to be an episode.
Alright, Tony? Who wants to talk about Tony?
Oh, yeah,
Tony, the confirmed bi character.
Yeah, which is kind of funny considering that, like, when you see Tony, he's introduced as, like, the typical dude bro character. Like, he's always hitting on Shion, and he's always, like, snarky. Like, you see him, you're like, yeah, he's a bro. He's about to go, like, chug a 6-pack and look at, like, I don't know, like, Playboy magazine or some, like, car magazines. But then you find out that, hey, he might have actually had a boyfriend at one point.
Yeah, because there's a part in Xenos episode 2 where you can speak to an NPC that's apparently his ex-girlfriend or something like that, and she implies that he's had some relationships with men. I feel like she might have implied like Hammer and Matthews, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Really?
I want to say
Him and Hammer, huh?
Yeah.
Him and Hammer makes perfect sense. They do a
They
little
do.
dance together.
That's what I'm like.
Fine. I'm more shocked by him. Matthews. Tony lowered his standards for Matthews?
Oh.
It's the boots.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's the hat.
The hat and the boots.
Hat, yes.
Yeah. Chaos was on that ship, too.
He was.
Tony does the Elsa.
Alright.
Do we want to save King for a separate section, or do we want to talk about him
now? This is our special round of bad gay representation in the Xeno series. Round 1.
Yay.
And the first prize goes to King from Xenosaga episode 1 and 2. I don't
think he gets first prize, but he does get first mention.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's definitely someone who's way worse than King.
He is an NPC. But yeah, King is an NPC in Xenosaga episode 1 and 2. He is a leader of a gang on the Kukai Foundation. Episode 1, he wasn't... I didn't think he was too bad, but he came off more as like, oh, he's a tough guy, but he also likes cats. Ha ha ha. But in episode 2, he felt more like a gay caricature, more like in episode 2, but yeah, he just didn't.
Yeah, like that stereotype we were talking about with Rico, not Ricky.
Yeah, and yeah, he's just wasn't very good representation overall.
No. So, but fortunately he is an NPC, so he's pretty easy to ignore.
Exactly.
Alright, anyone else for Xenosaga?
Well, we're talking about bad rep, or are we just going to get to the other ones?
Well, it sounds like we're just going to go chronologically.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll just go, chronologically. And
fortunately, I think our winner is the last one we're going to bring up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any guesses as to who the winner is, post in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe.
And if you post after we've already said it, we will know. Anyway.
Well, if anything, if you post who you think the winner is after we say it, and it's correct, that will let us know that you listened all the way through.
Yeah. Or you're good at guessing. We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Okay.
Moving on to Xenoblade.
Alright, so let's move on. Heck yeah. Alright. So Albus is also in that same category of chaos with, like, being not a traditionally masculine guy.
Also, I thought of something.
Excellent,
his
good.
Connection to the wave existence, which is beyond any kind of gender at all.
Exactly. And, Justin, you were bringing up something about how, like, in a lot of Japanese media with non-binary characters, they're always mysterious.
Yeah, they tend to be on the more mysterious side, or, like, they often withhold information from the party. However, I think, as we mentioned, Chaos is a little bit better about this, a little bit more friendly, but still, there's definitely moments where Chaos knows more than he's letting on, and that's definitely something I notice with those kind of characters. Same with Alvis as well. So I guess it's like one of those things where it's just like, I guess they're trying to keep you guessing what's going on with them, but that's just something I noticed, like a little pattern in quite a few of these games.
Mm-hmm. And Alvis does have more feminine mannerisms and body language than Chaos.
Yeah.
So he is very easy to read as non-binary. But again, any character can easily be read that way.
Yep. Even trans icon Dunban.
Go ahead, elaborate on trans icon Dunban, because I can only elaborate on gay icon Dunban.
Okay. So Dunban looks like how I would look if I were a guy. He has the same hair type.
You do have Dunban's hair. I'm like thinking about it now.
It's a fucking power. So when I first saw him, I was like, holy shit, this guy looks like me! He doesn't make all the right moves, but he's a cool character that a lot of people like, and I could look like him. Like, when I first first started with, being out as non-binary, I thought, I will never pass for male. And it was sort of like lifelong kind of despair, but I can look like Dunban. And that is really powerful to me. And that has, stayed with me since I first played Xenoblade, and is very important to me. So that's that there for me. And that is my experience. Other people may have completely different reads, and they're valid.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Robin, what's your gay read?
My gay read on Dunban. So, I guess around the time that I had played Xenoblade, I watched a playthrough of Ib, and I had read something about how Gary from there was supposed to be gay-coded because he used a lot of, flowery language. When I tried to go find this again, what I instead found was that Gary is kind of non-binary coded. He uses a lot of feminine terms, he speaks in a more feminine way, but that is about Gary from Ib. My point with that was that Dunban similarly has a lot of flower motifs, so I thought, oh, he's supposed to be gay-coded. And another part of that is just how he is constantly, thinking in terms of who's Fiora going to end up with. Fiora has to make a family, because I won't. And there's a heart-to-heart with Charlotte where she starts to ask him about, what type of women do you like, and he's very evasive about it. So I took all of that to mean, oh, Dunban is gay. Dunban does not care for women, which...
But he does care for Mumkar.
But he does care for Mumkar. He cares too much until he absolutely doesn't.
And won't cry when his sister dies.
And he realizes it was Mumkar. No, there are... I mean, Mumkar and Dixon are both important to Dunban, but I feel that, he doesn't have too many male relationships where I could easily go, oh, yeah, that's a guy he's super into. It's just his consistent evasiveness in terms of getting married, I read as, oh, he knows he's not going to get married. It could also be a, he doesn't think he'll live long enough thing, but he is 30. And for, video game guys, that's crazy old, Dunban. Holy shit,
that's the end
you're
of the
gonna
line.
be a spinster. Dunban already has one foot in the grave because he's 30 whole years old. So that was reasoning for my reading Dunban as gay, and I thought it was... Again, I thought this was intentional, so I thought it was really cool that they would have this very cool character and have him be gay, and then I realized, oh no, that wasn't the canon intent. Whoops.
Yeah, and I think the Sakura motif is hella manly in Japan because it's also shared by Nagi in Xenoblade X.
They could just both be gay.
Valid.
But yes, I do agree. It was a poor application of concepts that are not mine. And our other fine queer-coded character, or arguably queer-coded character, is Shulk, who does have... So I've seen readings of Shulk where, based on... Oh, by the way, this contains Xenoblade spoilers. Based on how he's a shell for Zanza, he probably feels very unattached from his body. The reason he doesn't react to food that much is just part of this whole disassociative feeling. And there's also readings of, he doesn't feel tying into he doesn't feel like his body is his own. When he does see Zanza and does see Zanza's male form, he, there's a sense of, oh, that's good, yes, I was right, that is what I should look like, that is me. One could argue that Zanza's not the most masculine guy to see, but that is not what we're arguing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great explanation, because I've heard a lot of theories on Shulk being trans from multiple people, actually.
I think another part of it is just that a lot of people who enjoy the series and are transmasc do relate to Shulk. He's a good boy, but he has difficulty communicating and keeps to himself and is afraid to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, like, that sort of feeling that you need to hide, that people are gonna not... like, that feeling of needing to hide is, of course, within the entire Xeno universe, but is also a common feeling in the trans experience and the gay experience. I feel bad. I feel like I'm being a bad transmasc for not relating to any of the transmasc characters.
It's really okay. I think Shulk is another I can easily look like this guy kind of character when starting out.
If I had only let my hair grow out more during quarantine, I could have looked like Ryan.
Nice.
Curse my haircuts.
I still beat myself up that I don't look like friggin' wrestler, but that's my problem.
Right, let's go hit up the gym. Let's go get buff so we can look like Ryan.
Go get copies of Ring Fit.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So, moving on to Cross.
Yeah.
To Cross.
Speaking of the trans experience, your main character.
Yep, your main character. Look however you want at any point.
Which is something we're seeing in a lot of games nowadays. I'm noticing, especially like Nintendo games, they're letting you pick your appearance. Sometimes you can pick whichever voice you want. Like if you could pick a quote-unquote female appearance and give them a quote-unquote masculine voice. Those are all features that we are seeing in a lot of games nowadays. And I think that's actually pretty cool.
I think Saints Row was probably one of the earlier ones to do it, but there it was meant to be like a joke of, oh, haha, it's funny, you're running around like this dude, and then you got a lady voice, so you're running around a lady, and then you got the dude voice, and ah ha 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 ha. Though, of course, that does have the side effect of, oh, cool, I can make a doodly-looking man and then give it lady voice, and there's me, I did it. Thank you, Saints Row. That was definitely your intention. I'm lying, I always made, like, the most buff lady I possibly could ever.
Rad. Speaking of buff ladies, can we talk about Irina and her crush on Elma?
We can absolutely talk about Irina and her crush on Elma, yes.
Irina definitely has a crush on Elma. Like, anything that isn't actually in the game isn't actually canon, but Irina has a huge amount of queer coding, at least that I could discern. She seems to have, like, a little bit of leftover Pellegri energy. And that is applied to Elma. So I was surprised by that.
And of course, Gwen has
I mean, everyone is attracted to Elma.
Yeah.
That's true. There is that Gwen thing,
yeah.
But it's like...
Yeah. I would just say he has huge Alan energy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he definitely does.
Yeah.
Huge Alan energy. That should be a new term.
I mean, since everyone loves Elma, should we segue into Elma?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about
Elma, who everyone loves.
All right. Yeah. I mean, the big twist in that game is that she's not a human, and throughout the game she had that fear of rejection from the other Blade Blade members, thank you, which a lot of people have when it comes to coming out and being who you are. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, everyone's like, well, we've known you all of this time. We know who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. We know who you are. We know. And we love you. And everyone loves Elma.
I also think just on, like, a side note, just, like, Elma in general just feels like a character that breaks the status quo.
She does, being another, like, 30-year-old video game character.
Yeah. And
therefore half dead.
She's like an older female character that, like, takes charge. She's really strong, is there for everybody. Like, Elma's a really good character, and I don't see a lot of Elma likes out there. She really stands out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that in the narrative, they never criticized her for being a woman. Like,
yeah, you're right,
Shion,
actually.
Yeah.
Like, Shion, was in charge of the whole R&D division, but, like, you still have Vandercom calling her a Girl Scout. You didn't have that with Elma. Elma was just like, this is the Colonel. You treat her like the Colonel.
Yeah.
We don't have to, like, do any weird sexist comments here.
And that was really refreshing. Elma is another character, sort of. Like when I looked at Elma and when I looked back at Dominia, I got a little bit of Dominia, not really energy, but it's the same, like, oh, I love this kind of woman energy off of Elma, and Elma is much better behaved than Dominia the entire time. But like Elma's nobility is uncommon in a lot of female characters and things, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah. I guess before we hop into our fine bad rep, I'll first bring up my read on Hope. I always read Hope as a trans woman, and part of that was just because I felt like her name was too on the nose to not have been chosen by herself, or possibly her father. But her narrative also had, like, a lot of fear of rejection, fear of people not liking who you really are. And then, like, on a more minor note, she got very uncomfortable when people talked about reproduction. And so I always just read her as being a trans woman. And honestly, I feel that that's a thing that I'm glad they didn't do it and just sort of planted the seeds for it to be done, that they didn't, like, get into too much the nitty-gritty, that there might be people who probably don't want to leave their mimiazomes, that are probably happier, whose body now matches how they've always seen themselves. And, while that is a very interesting topic that I do like to discuss, I'm kind of happy the game didn't, because while the game has several steps forward, I wouldn't want that to be their step back.
Yeah, that's a very careful line.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to think about, but I don't know if I would yet trust the writers with something that delicate. And I trust them with a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting being a member of the LGBT community during this time where Japan is like a decade behind us in terms of social stuff. So we are being, as a community as a whole, much more critical of works being put out by Western authors, and I think a lot of patience is given to Japanese writers because of the sort of cultural divide. Like, a Japanese writer probably won't think of the American LGBT scene.
No, but it's not like there isn't an LGBT scene in Japan.
That's true.
And, like, it's just us over here, we're less aware of what's of the specifics of what's going on.
And there's also, like, the amount of time it takes to make a massive game. Social norms will change, so...
All right.
Okay, would you like to discuss our next bad game?
Yes.
Since I know you, in fact, unironically like them.
I'm trying.
The next round
really
of
trying.
terrible Xeno representation for LGBTQ goes to Laramara and Nara.
Yes. Okay. These guys look like Margulis. I love Margulis. But they're such bad gay rep. They fall in to a very stereotypical bara gay guy with like lipstick trope. And it's just like over the top, and it's another terrible caricature that just ended up in this thing. And when I was first playing Xenoblade X for the first time, and I ran across Laramara, I think it was, I was like, are these people making fun of me? Or are they making fun of Margulis?
Oof, either way.
I thought Luxor was trying to make fun of Margulis.
So half of me wonders if a lot of the stuff that I see in this series that I like is just because I'm projecting and wanting to see things that I like. And, like, when they make huge misses like that, I get really disappointed. Mm-hmm. But, like, I am attracted to men that look like Laura Mora. I'm not certain on the attitude, but, when I tried to write Xenoblade X fanfiction, I was trying to write it from my Cross's perspective, who, of course, I made the most Ramses-looking guy I could, and it was just like, this math guy ends up with this indestructible robot body and, like, standardized muscles, and, like, is like, I finally look like how I want to look. And I can finally interact with other gay men because I've got a sliver of self-confidence now. And trying this, like, newly awakened gay guy trying to go onto the scene for the first time, interacting with Lara Mara and Lara Nara. I never finished it, but it was kind of like, I tried to humanize them a little bit better, because there are flaming gay guys like that in real life, and not all of them are bad. And I think the further you get into X, you sort of find out that one of the brothers has kind of more even keel and badass, but you don't get there until you do a bunch of, like, really hard ass quests. And for the things that fell on their face with Lara Mara and Lara Nara, they're definitely fetishized. You get the statue with them obviously flaming gay, effeminate poses, but you also get a statue of HB like that. So I'm not even sure if it's a gold star. I'm not even sure if it's a silver star. But a blue star. They tried.
Yeah, it's they could have done more, and it would have been like, alright, not the best, but yes, obviously, flamboyant gay men exist. That's totally cool and fine, and we're not saying any actual human person can't exist. We're saying, like, here's the issue with these characters. And one of the issues would be if they... I mean, as you said, like most of the content in Cross, it's hidden behind, like, 17th side quests that are easy to miss.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't get a lot of the more humanizing aspects of them, and, like, them being cool and competent, and I don't remember which brother it is, and I don't remember if it's the same as the brother that actually does have a boyfriend. But yeah, it's content that's hidden, and if they made that stuff more prevalent, then, like, the issue would be less they're stereotyped, and, it would be more okay. It'd be like, alright, fine, you made a fully fleshed out character who is also a flamboyantly gay man. Cool.
Yeah. I also think they cashed in some tokenism here, and another problem with starting to make change is that sometimes it starts out with tokenism. Whether that's acceptable or not is definitely up to whoever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we move on to Xenoblade 2, I just want to give a shout out to Mia's two dads. That's it.
Hell yeah.
That's all I had.
Who are Mia's two dads again?
I don't know. She just mentions them, like, in her final quest that she has two dads. And
oh, good for her.
And
that's awesome.
It's awesome. It just didn't make a big deal about it.
I don't remember that.
Why is it all of the good content in Cross so buried?
Oh my gosh, and yeah, Mia especially. You had to... Oh, it was
Mia is so buried.
She was so difficult to get.
Like, shout out to Embry, who's still playing Xenoblade Cross, so I can actually finish all of those side quests, because I'm really bad at it, and I have to keep recruiting you. and Ombre. Yeah, you're the real MVPs here.
Alright, are we ready for Xenoblade 2?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh,
And this one has a lot, too.
yes.
Yeah, it had a lot of characters. It still feels weird how little we had to say about Blade, but I guess Blade doesn't have too many characters.
Yeah, I can't think of many.
Alright.
But we can talk about one of the more blatant ones, Sheba. Yep, Sheba.
She's one of your favorites, go ahead.
She is one of my favorites. Probably my favorite Blade. Yeah, Sheba. She doesn't care about guys at all. She'll make them her pack mule, basically. And what's kind of cool about Sheba is that she likes women, but they don't really entertain the possibility that she might be into guys. So you really get like a hard lesbian character, which I find surprisingly rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like oftentimes it's like, oh, they kind of like both, or they'll just be like, oh yeah, they're bi. But no, it's like Sheba seems to only be attracted to other women.
And it's a huge sticking point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was very impressed. And it didn't seem to me like too much tokenism. So things are getting better, obviously.
Yeah. I think I was really happy with the way they portrayed Sheba for the most part.
Yeah, I honestly kept thinking that it was going to be like, oh, she does like men. There's a theoretical man that exists.
That she really does.
Then she'd like them. Or like, here's her side quest where she decides that this man is super important to her, but no, consistently throughout, she does not give a shit about men.
Yeah, they stuck to their guns with that.
Yeah, and I think it might be Korra's side quest, where, like, you end up talking to a lot of the other female Blades. They even specifically say, hey, Sheba, I know you don't like men, but if you did, could you help us with this problem? And then she, like, just kind of comes up with, I don't know, I guess he'd have to be strong and carry all my bags, because fuck men.
Yeah, Sheba's great.
Sheba's great.
I was rewatching that one cutscene where she kicks that Nupon.
Oh, so good.
Unbelievable. Just the best.
Sheba's so good.
All right. So the next one, this is actually kind of new to me. This way to read Nia.
Oh, you haven't... Oh, okay.
I've actually never heard that particular headcanon before.
Well, I had a different... Well... Oh, you go on, because I had a different read, but it's pretty much the same read. But, yeah, never mind. Sorry.
No, say it.
Yeah. Do you want to just piggyback off of the next, of the main read?
Yeah, there we go.
Say your bit.
Okay.
Gotcha, okay.
There we go.
Alright, so, with Nia, the obvious scene that comes to mind is the bathhouse scene where, one thing is that she's very focused on Mithra's body and how it's perfect, and hers is perhaps not quite so similar to that. And another thing is, she's obviously clouded in steam and mist. She goes into the bath, and then Mithra says something vague, and do you want to talk about it? To which Nia says no. So, obviously, it's actually she's talking about Nia's core crystal that Nia doesn't want to talk about, but it's easy to read that as, oh, maybe Nia doesn't look like a traditional woman. Maybe Nia's trans, and doesn't want to fucking talk about it with Mithra right now, thank you very much. So that's an easy read for Nia, and a common one, because you take rep where you can find it.
Yeah.
Yes, you certainly do.
Definitely, I feel like Nia's, like, overarching story overall is a coming out story. Because, yeah, as you said, she is a Blade, and she keeps this, to herself, and to Dromark and Mithra, until about chapter 7. And then she finally, like, expresses her feelings, and everyone, of course, is like, we still really like you. And I thought...
We're happy that you felt safe telling us this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it really shows, like, why she loves the group so much.
Yeah, and just, like, being able to find acceptance after a lifetime of not feeling accepted is huge. So, yeah.
And, like, she did have that with Torna, since they were all in that same boat, so you could argue that every single member of Torna is transcoded. And you know what? Good on you if you do.
Yes.
Which is a kind of good segue to go to Malos and Jin.
Yes. Yeah. Malos and Jin are probably one of the most gay-coded villain pairs lately. They whether or not you think that they're gay or that they're just good friends, it's good to see whatever your read on them, they are there for each other. The narrative shows them helping each other. The narrative shows them hugging. The energy between them. These guys are important to each other, and not a whole lot does that. And I think we also get that with Morag and Bridget.
Right.
But the the thing with Jin and Malos that stands out a little bit more is that they're both very masculine, and I feel like if Xenoblade 2 had been released 10 years before, Jin's design may have been a little bit more effeminate, but it's just
he would have had more belts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that no matter how you read that, if you read them as they're both straight or they are gay, I think that it's really refreshing to see two strong guys share that kind of intimate relationship with each other, because you wouldn't expect that at all. These two strong, burly, muscly dudes hugging each other and able to open up to each other about what's going on inside. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to talk about how Malos's hips are another big thing.
We have a point on Malos's hips coming up.
Yes. Oh, was I not supposed to do that?
No, we can't talk about the forbidden hips. We have 2 more bullet points till we talk about those hips.
Talk about
okay.
Hips.
No, we first have to talk about Morag and Bridget.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So Morag and Bridget.
I have a piece to say, but if anybody else, okay, all right. So I'm non-binary. I don't see myself doing any physical transitioning. But I feel okay if I'm going to be like Morag for the rest of my life. Also, I'm gay for Bridget, but I also feel like Morag is another, slightly more neutral take on a character like Elma. But, I think even Morag's Japanese Seiyu is a guy. She is, very dead-ass mask through most of it, and she's also another character that feels like Dominia, and she's a hero this time. You fight her once or twice, but her honor is never in doubt. She is a positively coded gay character in a major video game with a blazingly attractive girlfriend. And I adore Bridget myself, but also another thing that I went to look for in Bridget's idle animation, sometimes she'll do a little heart for Morag, and when I was playing Torna, she does not do that for Hugo.
No way!
Yep, I looked for it. I waited.
Wow, I never noticed that.
Well, now I have to boot up the game again, which will be really hard since I haven't finished definitive.
Wow, that's a crazy detail.
Yeah.
You look for crazy details with your faves.
Whoa.
I mean, Morag does have that line where she talks about how she wishes she could be even closer to with Brigid, since, like, everyone else is talking about, like, oh, I have part of my Blade's crystal in my foot. And, she doesn't have that, and so she does, like, express regret, and then talks about not wanting a scar.
Yeah. And, like, I think, like, even if you don't read Morag and Brigid as gay, it's another very intimate same-sex relationship, romantic or not.
100%.
Okay, I'm done.
No, I think that summarized it beautifully.
100, yeah. That was
Morag,
great.
I mean,
one thing...
Oh,
sorry.
No, go on.
No, good.
I was just gonna correct... sorry. Just correct you.
Go ahead. You go.
Okay, I will go. But just a small thing. Morag's Japanese voice actress actually is a woman. But
oh shit!
Yes,
that's awesome.
Yes, she from her list, it looks like she does play a lot of masculine characters, though.
That's awesome. That's badass. So, like, it was convincing enough to me, and that is amazing to me. And like. Another thing that I forgot to mention, she's Morag is very Utna-like, and that's another like big gay character for me.
I see that, and I appreciate that.
What I was going to say was that insofar as we've stated that characters who act kind of not aligned with their birth gender are kind of non-binary coded or could be easily read that way. Morag.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the Aegises also have a similar sort of trans narrative to the URTVs, where they have like the specific purpose in mind and are given names that they all reject. Some of them reject it twice. So it's again that same sort of narrative of like making yourself, throwing away the name, and being your own person.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can talk about Malos!
Yay! So I experienced a lot of dysphoria about my body when I was growing up, and all of the men and women in magazines that I couldn't look like were all like super skinny or super muscled or things that were just like on the top shelf. I like maybe if I started on T right now, I could look like Triple H or something. But like finding characters who are very, very masculine but have like very feminine parts to them helps me imagine myself there, and it cuts down on my own self-hatred of my own body, which is still very prevalent right now in my life. So, like, these are things that make me feel better about myself. These meditations are positive for myself and how I feel about me and how I want to look, but it may not be the same way for other people.
Yeah, I think, like, a lot of people actually have expressed, like, thank you to Malos's hips, because,
yes.
I mean, myself, as a transmasc person, like, it was kind of refreshing to see a person with such a masculine form and then feminine hips. Like, okay, well, I know that I can't really change my skeleton, so no matter what goes on, my skeleton's gonna look like my skeleton, until I get crazy expensive, dangerous surgeries. And so it's kind of like, oh, okay, I could still look, it could still be the case that I could look very much like a man and still have my skeleton.
Yeah.
And, like, that's just a reassuring sight. And it feels so weird to, like, just be like, special mention to Malos's hips.
Yeah, and, like, I'm always worried that any trait that I pick out that I want on myself and my own thing might be invalidating something for somebody else. So I apologize up and down for anything that I've said during this that invalidates anybody else's experience.
Well, I mean, part of the point of this episode is to provide another perspective, right? You have your perspective. Other people might have their perspectives. They're all valid readings. They're all valid perspectives.
Yeah. I guess this is just sort of becoming, oh, hey, this is how I feel about my body. This is what I want to look like. This is what I look for when I look for things that I want to look like.
That's, I mean, we've said this is going to be like a very opinionated and just like, here's a perspective. Yours could be different.
Yes,
and also we're not experts on this theory, and we're doing a really bad job of applying it. But that's
or maybe just listen to the perspectives that we're presenting here, and take a look at the characters that you like. Maybe you might discover something new about them that you can appreciate.
Yeah,
it's all about having an open mind and hearing each other out. Because I think that if we can do that, we can understand each other better.
Yeah, and
also, I love hearing diverse takes about reading my favorite characters. Because I come from a place of nobody cares about my favorite characters but me. But this isn't true with Xenoblade 2.
Yeah, and like honestly, a lot of the readings that I've heard, some of the ones I've heard today, I've heard them for the first time, but there's other ones that I've been more than familiar with. I really enjoy hearing them because it lets me look at those characters in a different way, and most of the time I end up liking them that much more.
Yeah, and like I don't think I've heard too much of anything where it's been like, I disagree with you and I hate you for having said it. Like, there's just been, it's not my read, that's cool, I'm glad you enjoy that.
Yeah.
You're all valid, and we're not trying to invalidate anyone else.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Also part of this experience, the fear that you will be rejected by your friends. And strangers!
See, you're doing your own personal Xenoblade game right now.
At worst, we finally might get email to our XenoChat email account.
How dare you say gay? Please delete yourself from the internet. Well, I'm going to awkwardly transition back to what we were talking about, though.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about some more characters from Xenoblade 2. Yeah. I know you have a lot to say about Vandom.
I do not actually have a lot to say about Vandom, and yet I kept insisting that I say it. I was so on the fence about saying anything, but, like, I've headcanon... my headcanon for him is that he's non-binary, and that is based on nothing but, like, my heart and wanting him to be. So with a lot of non-binary rep, and, like, the rep we've even talked about here, it's been, like, more skewed towards feminine presenting. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's not true for everything. And the other side is that a lot of the more masculine presenting, they then are not human. Like, I do not remember the character's name from Borderlands 3, but that is a, like, more masculine character, but he's not human, so it's okay. So, with Vandom, it's like, what if I just take this beef slab muscle and said he just deleted gender. He just said, I don't need that anymore, thank you.
I love it.
And again, there's, like, nothing, there's no basis for that. It just makes me feel better to think of, like, what if we had a very masculine character who also was not a man? And was not a woman, and was just Vandom. And I guess if you want some in-game basis for it, well, his only blade, Rock, Rock's gender is 4. That is in the game. The game code says Rock's gender is 4.
I love it.
That's right, yeah.
So, and as we all know, blades and drivers have to share something, so Vandom's gender is 4.
Yeah, I think Vandom's a cool character for that. I wish he was playable for longer. I really wish.
I wish he was at least not so obviously going to die.
I know.
Like, you get him and you're like, oh, you're gonna die.
I know, but at the same time, I really liked him, though.
I did really like him. He was
a really sweet guy, and, you know, even though this isn't related to sexual orientation or gender, it is kind of refreshing to see this really buff guy, this really buff, dark-skinned guy who just cares for everybody and just an overall sweetheart. Like, that's so cool to see. Like, I love seeing Vandom, and just that kind of character portrayed. I love it. Like, I really wish I had more of him. I wish I had more time to play with him just so I can learn more about him. And it's especially sad when, like, you have that one heart-to-heart where Rex can say that, like, he considered Vandom like a father, because, like, man, how cool would it have been if they got to explore that relationship more?
Yeah. Vandom was so good.
We didn't deserve him.
That's why they had to take him from us.
Yep.
Alright. Who wants to give the crowning?
Oh boy, yeah. Okay, so
what the fuck?
All right, we have our last,
the winner,
but not least, and possibly the worst representation.
Hopefully least.
In the Xenosaga.
Hopefully
last. The last time we have to deal with this. And the worst representation is Florin. Who wants to talk about Florin?
Florin is bad.
Yeah.
So, Florin comes from that trope of, like, oh, do you think it's a girl, but it's a boy? And all of his skills, or not all of his skills, but all his, filling out his affinity chart is about manipulating people and lying. Well, not lying, but definitely manipulating people. And, like, they consistently call Florin a young lady, which then leads to the dumb twist in his quest, where at the end he goes, by the way, I'm a boy. And the reason that's a dumb twist, is that throughout the game you've been able to send him on missions where he's consistently counted as male, so that's not a shock to you, the player.
Yeah, and what's also terrible about that is, throughout many of, like, the people you're supposed to speak to, they consistently refer to Florin as a girl, and Florin never corrects them. It's only at the end that Florin suddenly decides, hey, stop doing that. Like, that's so ridiculous. And even, like, in the Awakening scene, Florin has that, like, mischievous giggle. It's like, it's so hard not to read it as, like, Florin is just deliberately messing with these people, and that's such a dangerous stereotype. Yeah. And it's bad. Like, that's not good at all. It
reinforces, like, negativity and distrust and
Yeah, I am not a fan of Florin's storyline.
No. Like, the most generous read I was able to give is like, oh, okay, what if Florin's a trans man and just at the end he finally felt comfortable enough to say something? But that's really trying to push for it to be a generous read, because then the reaction still sucks.
You have to ignore all the manipulation throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, like I said, it's a shitty thing. It's just like, how do you make it a little better? Okay, it's still shitty.
Yeah, and, like, considering other characters and all the other, like, positive characters and positive rep that we have seen in Xenoblade 2, it's like Florin kind of sticks out.
And, like, you have a scene with Morag and Tora. Yeah, Tora earlier, where Tora's like, oh, let's all go to the hot springs, and doesn't see why Morag might object, because Nopon tell gender based on clothing, and since Morag dresses like a man, Tora assumed that she was a man. And, like, that isn't dealt with as insultingly.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, you mistook. That's not a great way for you to determine gender, little dude.
I guess Florin's just a horrible person.
Yeah, Florin's just a bad character. Can't say he's a horrible person. He doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think the dropping of the ball there is that the narrative isn't positive in this character's presentation. It's backsliding, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, like, a lot of people give Xenoblade 2 flack for being anime, as though the other games weren't. And
also,
it did have a lot more tropes, and that was definitely in there.
Yeah, and it's sort of like it's just like the opening tagline of "and boy meets girl" is very heteronormative, and there's so many boob monsters, but some of those boob monsters are also designed by women, so it's like we're still arguing about boob monsters no matter what. But look at all this gay, and look at all this other stuff that is in this game.
It has so much good stuff, and they just kind of tried to draw you in with boobs, and I don't know why Florin's there. And I think the aspect of Florin's character, which is that he really loves plants and feels empathy towards trees, is like, that's chill.
That's fine. And that's another thing
do
about
that.
Florin.
Do more of that.
Like, that whole other part just feels tacked on. Like, they just threw it in there just for the sake of having that in there.
Yeah, it's just like, we have to make sure we have this type of character. And it's like, if everything was the same, but, like, they kept calling him young man, and he was still manipulative, and you know, a small feminine kid. Well, I have no idea how old he's supposed to be. But if he was still, you know, feminine, and, like, his storyline was still about tricking people, that wouldn't be great, but it would at least be a different bad.
Yeah.
Then he would still be a different stereotype. God damn it. You know what? Take Florin, throw out Florin, replace him with better Florin.
Just give us a boy that likes flowers.
Just give us Flower Boy.
Yes. Give us Eris, but boy.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
Take Aerith, make boy, make Blade. Done.
Ooh.
Okay.
Alright. Is there any...
So, Kat, you had a closing thought?
Yeah, I had some closing thoughts scrawled.
I had some clothing thoughts.
So basically, just wanted to reiterate, we here only represent a very small subsect of this gigantic, diverse, beautiful, colorful community. If you have different opinions for what was said, that's amazing, and I would love to hear extra different, more takes on the series at large. I just wanted to make sure that I've said a lot in here, but everything I've said is not the final word. I encourage people to disagree with the stuff that I've said here. I encouraged people to think differently, and I think one of the most important things about the LGBT movement and queer theory and upward movement in general is that free thought is super diverse, and it's very important to keep as many voices as possible going. So,
well said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, just to add on to what Kat was saying, as we keep saying, we're not pros at this. But if, like, let's say you think our commentary on the topic, you're not satisfied with it, we honestly encourage everybody, not just those of you who think this is a bad podcast, but people who enjoy our commentary. We encourage everybody to research this on your own term, on your own time. And if you've got more ideas surrounding this to contribute, by all means, post them on Twitter. You can even tag us in it. Let us know. Like, I think a lot of us can benefit from reading up about this. It doesn't even have to be that deep. Even if you were to just like go on the Wikipedia page for queer theory, that's already much more work than a lot of people are currently putting into this. I think just the idea of entertaining it and trying to be open to other perspectives is a very good thing, and something that I definitely encourage and would love to see more of in the community as a whole.
And we provided like a fair amount of justification for a lot of these, but you don't need any justification.
I was just about to say,
not be cis. You don't need that. It's just because you are like.
It doesn't have to be justification.
Yes.
It's just a matter of how that reading, how we see that reading. It's not we're making justification. We're explaining what that reading means to us and how that may or may not affect the way we see that character.
Yeah. I thought I had something to add. I didn't.
Don't worry, you've added plenty of great things tonight.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very thankful to have all of you on for this.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're good to wrap things up then. So I'll just go around, and if there's anything you want to share, any projects or anything on the side, just let me know. We'll start with you, Justin.
So, secret Xeno project thing is on its way, and I should be able to. I'm not going to say that. You'll probably hear more about it very soon. I'll put it to you that way.
Nice.
But other than that, it's been just the usual. I've been playing Xenoblade Definitive Edition. I've been enjoying the heck out of it. I've been posting it on Twitter. I did start playing Ring Fit Adventure today, and that game is really fun. I never thought that a workout could be so entertaining.
Yeah,
I know that game's kind of hard to find these days because it's going in and out of stock, but if you can get a copy of it, I definitely recommend it. Even the rhythm game mode is a lot of fun. It's shocking how well it works. I wasn't sure what I expected with a rhythm game workout video game, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I need.
And you want to tie that back into Xeno? Because Xenosaga drew Nia playing Ring Fit.
Don't worry, I call it Wii Fit all the time.
Ring Fit.
Yeah.
When refit.
That'd be cool if they update it and add Xenoblade songs into Ring
That's
Fit.
what I wanted. There's too few Nintendo songs.
Yeah, because you get the Mario one, and then you have I think there's a Splatoon one. There's otherwise Ring Fit music, and I think the old Wii Fit has a song in there
and there's
too.
one Breath of the Wild song, I think.
Oh yeah, there's a Breath of the Wild medley.
Yeah. So please give us Xenoblade music.
Yeah, Xenoblade or even Fire Emblem music. I think that'd be kind of interesting.
All right, Robin, what you got going on?
I have just been writing bad things that I haven't been posting anywhere publicly. Tag me in all Dixon pictures. All of them.
Oh,
All of them.
Do you still have that
Duly
Twitter
noted.
account?
I do have a Twitter account where all I do is post pictures of Dixon. It's called Dixon Pixon.
Oh my God.
If you thought I can't look at Dixon enough, here's a Twitter account for you.
All right, what do you got going on, Kat?
I am still mired in playing Final Fantasy XIV as much as I can between working hours and trying to get some happiness going despite all of this IRL terrifying stuff. It's very hard to keep a positive attitude here, and there have been some unpleasant things that have happened to me recently, but I am determined not to give up. I'm determined to go on and keep myself happy and hang out with my friends a little bit more.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, we're all here for you, as you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. We love you, Kat.
Yeah, and I love y'all. And all you guys!
How we have to end everything.
Tyler,
Tyler, what about you?
Okay, I really don't have too much going on myself. I still write news articles from time to time, and I've been, also playing Xenoblade Definitive Edition and juggling that with Sakura Wars. Which, if we want,
that game is really good.
Yeah, it is really good. I have so much fun with it, and the battle system was kind of meh at first, but then I did the update with the lock-on feature, and that just changes it completely.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. I don't know what people were complaining about with it, because I remember when the game was coming out, a lot of people were just like, oh, this is just this is just really shitty Musa, and you like there's no moves, and I'm like, what are you? Am I playing the same game as you guys?
Right.
Like, meanwhile, I'm playing and I'm having a lot of fun.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I've been having a blast with it too. So all right. Oh, before we kind of close up, I kind of wanted to give some honorable mentions. Feeny, who is on our XenoChat Discord, contributed by talking about the URTVs and the Aegis's names. So thank you very much, Feeny, for your contribution there.
Thank you, Feeny.
Also,
Yes, thank you.
Go on.
Oh no, I was just thinking Feeny.
Oh, sorry. And then also speaking of, again, I want to thank Christy for giving me this idea, or giving us this idea to pursue queer theory in Xeno. I really appreciate it. She and her partner has a podcast called Ebony Ditch, which also kind of goes into queer theory in other video games. I listened to their one on Nier Automata, and I thought it was a really interesting listen. So I definitely got a shout out to Christy.
And hopefully we can revisit this with her.
Yes, that would be great. All right. So let's see here. The KO-S-MOS episode should be uploaded before this one. At least I really want it to be. Hopefully it'll come out around the same time as the figure, but fingers crossed.
That's gonna be so hard for us to time.
Yeah, no. At least hopefully the same month, July, please.
Yeah,
she's so beautiful.
Yeah, the KO-S-MOS episode is really good, so I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, that was a really fun episode. And then oh wait, we do have another episode planned with Pure, which we haven't had an episode with him in over a year, so that's going to be exciting. We're going to try to record it next week, or this coming week, about personal stories, so stay tuned for that. And we have another project we're working on, but we're going to be a little tight-lipped about that for right now. So
I'm excited, though.
Yes.
I am also excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty good project.
Yes. Assuming it comes to fruition.
Let's hope so.
That is true.
Yeah, we'll just tease you for now. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's it for the foreseeable future. So thanks again for everyone listening, and for all the guests and my co-host tonight. I really appreciate this. Was a really, really awesome discussion.
Thank you for having me. And also Kat. I'll thank on behalf of Kat too.
Yes, and thank you on behalf of both.
All right, well, thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Until next time, Xenofam.
It's not gonna catch on.
I'm sorry.
Over the world we see all the high walls. You cannot change, but we've got to try first. Miles and miles fly across our sky. Tonight's the time. Over the rainbow, glorious night. It's light in our dreams, and I hope we're alright. We're all the same from another world. We don't belong here anymore. Look over there, it's all mine. We can be as panels, not place to follow. Don't take the sorrow.
Save the game?
This is
Oh,
my
no.
first because I decided to do this podcast without pants on. That's what
Oh, I
happens.
came back at a weird time.
It's a no
It's too
pants
hot in my
podcast.
room. I'm dying.
Hey, Morak, how about next time you put on a skirt and some heels?
How about you die in a fire, Zeke?
But I don't know if you heard
So,
me, but
yeah.
I was like, replace Florin with Chaos from Xenosaga as a blade.
Yes!
That would
Yes!
have been amazing.
Oh, we skipped over talking about the Aegises in general. We talked about Malice's hips.
I apologize! I am unable to complete my